In the silent lands of Belarus, something unusual is happening once again. After months of apparent calm, the presence of Russian troops has begun to rise near the southern borders. Long convoys of armored vehicles covered with mud and camouflage nets have been seen moving through the forests and open roads. Officially, these are described as routine joint military drills between Belarus and Russia. But Western intelligence believes this is a cover for something much larger, something that could reshape the future of Eastern Europe. The movements began quietly. A few supply trucks here, a few dozen soldiers there, but soon the scale increased. Satellite images captured by European agencies showed camps expanding, artillery positions being prepared, and mobile radar systems being installed near key routes leading toward Ukraine. It was as if the ghosts of 2022 had returned, when Russian troops used Belarus as a launchpad to invade northern Ukraine. That memory still haunts many Ukrainians, and now, as reports spread, fear is rising again. Western analysts are warning that the pattern looks eerily similar to the early stages of the war. The equipment being moved is not the kind used for simple exercises. These are frontline combat systems, tanks, missile launchers, and field hospitals. All signs point toward preparation, not training. President Alexander Lukashenko continues to claim that Belarus is simply cooperating with Russia to defend against NATO aggression. But few outside his inner circle believe that statement. Lukashenko's dependence on Moscow has deepened since the 2020 protests in Belarus, when his regime faced massive internal opposition. Russia supported him then, and now he seems to be returning the favor by allowing his country to become a military platform once again. Inside Russia, the propaganda machine is already spinning the narrative. State media outlets say that NATO is planning provocations near the Belarusian border, and that Russian troops are there only to protect their ally. But Western officials argue that this buildup could be the early phase of a new offensive, designed to stretch Ukrainian forces thin across multiple fronts. For Ukraine, this is deeply concerning. Its army has been engaged for over 3 years now, defending against relentless attacks in the east and south. A new front from the north would not only divide their defenses but also drain critical resources. Ukrainian commanders have already increased surveillance near the Belarusian border, deploying reconnaissance drones and strengthening defensive positions around key northern cities like Chernihiv and Rivne. Meanwhile, reports from local residents in Belarus tell another story. Villagers near the training zones say they have seen Russian soldiers speaking in unfamiliar accents, moving at night, and digging trenches near farmlands. Some even claim to have heard the roar of heavy artillery practice at odd hours, something that hasn't happened since early 2023. The atmosphere is tense. People know what those sounds mean. They remember how, just 3 years ago, those same sounds preceded the beginning of the war. Western diplomats have expressed deep concern over the situation. NATO has increased its reconnaissance flights over the region, and neighboring countries like Poland and Lithuania have placed their border units on high alert. The European Union, too, has condemned Belarus for allowing such operations, warning that the nation risks becoming a full combat participant if these movements continue. Experts believe Russia's objective may be psychological as much as military. By creating the threat of another northern offensive, the Kremlin could force Ukraine to divert troops from the front lines in Donetsk and Zaporizhzhia, relieving pressure on Russian forces there. This tactic of deception, known in military strategy as maskirovka, has been a core part of Russian warfare for decades. The idea is simple: confuse your enemy, stretch their defenses, and strike where they least expect. Behind the scenes, Belarusian soldiers are reportedly receiving Russian training in advanced weapons systems, including drones and air defense units. Russian officers are said to be taking direct command of certain operations, indicating that Moscow is tightening its grip on Belarus's military structure. The border between the two countries is now more symbolic than real. Militarily, Belarus has become an extension of Russia's Western Front. Yet, not everyone in Belarus supports this alignment. Leaked footage on social media shows small groups of Belarusian citizens protesting quietly, holding signs that say no to war, and Belarus is not Russia's battlefield. These protests are quickly dispersed, but they reveal growing unease among ordinary people. They fear that their homeland might once again become a launchpad for war and retaliation. Western intelligence sources have noted increased Russian air activity in Belarusian air bases such as Baranovichi and Lida. Fighter jets and bombers have been rotating in and out of these bases, often under the pretext of training missions. However, the scale and timing suggest a readiness to act if Moscow gives the order. Military experts in London and Washington say the key indicator to watch is logistics. In recent weeks, there has been a surge in fuel transport, medical supplies, and field engineering units entering Belarus, the kind of support infrastructure required for sustained combat operations. It all points to one chilling conclusion: Russia might be preparing for a renewed push, possibly toward western Ukraine, or even against Poland's border regions to send a political message to NATO. President Vladimir Putin has remained silent about these specific movements, but his recent speeches emphasize that Russia will defend its allies with all available means. That statement alone has raised alarms across Europe. Meanwhile, in Kiev, President Volodymyr Zelensky has called an emergency meeting with top generals. In his address to the nation, he stated, "Ukraine will not be intimidated. We are watching every move. Our defense is ready." Still, Ukrainian citizens are anxious. They know that wars are not only fought with weapons but also with fear, uncertainty, and misinformation. The Kremlin has mastered all three. Western sources indicate that this buildup in Belarus may also serve as a backup staging ground in case Russia faces major losses elsewhere. It could allow them to rotate troops, regroup, and maintain constant pressure on Ukraine without exhausting their main battlefront. Belarus offers strategic advantages: shorter supply lines from Russia's supportive leadership and proximity to multiple Ukrainian regions. Yet this strategy carries enormous risks for Belarus itself. If the country becomes directly involved, it could face international sanctions far harsher than before, and potentially even military retaliation. Analysts argue that Lukashenko is walking a dangerous line between survival and subservience. By aligning too closely with Moscow, he risks making Belarus a target, but by resisting, he risks losing the Kremlin's protection and his own power. Inside the Kremlin, hardliners view Belarus as an essential partner in what they describe as a new security architecture for Eurasia, a zone where Moscow controls all military directions and allies. This is part of a broader Russian vision to reassert dominance over the post-Soviet space and challenge NATO's influence near its borders. Meanwhile, Western governments are preparing for all scenarios. The United States has warned that any renewed Russian offensive involving Belarus will have serious consequences. NATO has increased rapid response readiness along its eastern borders. Military transport planes from the US and UK have been seen delivering additional supplies to bases in Poland and the Baltics. In the background, cyber activity has also surged. Several European networks have reported increased hacking attempts traced back to Russian and Belarusian sources targeting communications, infrastructure, and even election systems. The conflict is no longer just on the battlefield, it's in the digital, political, and psychological domains as well. Analysts say this hybrid warfare is designed to keep Europe constantly off balance. As the situation unfolds, Belarus stands at a crossroads. Its people face uncertainty, its leadership faces pressure, and its land risks becoming a silent battlefield once more. The world watches carefully, aware that even a single misstep could ignite a new phase of war. The drums of conflict echo faintly across the forests of Belarus, mixing with the cold autumn winds. Soldiers march, trucks roll, and radars hum under the cloudy skies. Whether these movements are a bluff or the beginning of something far more dangerous remains to be seen. But one thing is clear: the shadow of war is spreading again, quietly, strategically, and relentlessly. In the heart of Europe, Belarus may soon become the stage for another dangerous chapter in this long and brutal struggle.